Hiya Squishers, and welcome to another episode of Under the Stairs with me, Kate, and all the squish. Yay! And today is a bit of a special episode because I've rearranged the house since we last spoke, like totally rearranged the house. So if you're new here, welcome Squisher. Welcome to Under the Stairs in my house where I keep all of my well, that's an outright lie. Outright lie. This is where I keep a small portion of my knitted squish. That's a better analogy. My knitted squish under the stairs, and my name, if you're new here, is Kate Celine, and I dye all of the yarn here and on my website, which is www.kateceline.co.uk. And all the colours you see here and on the website are mine because I literally live in Colourland. It's the thing that I love so much about what I do. I literally can just craft any colour I like to match the mood I'm in, which is where we are today, Squishers. So today, under the stairs, you might want to grab a cuppa because this might be a longer one than normal. So are you ready? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like, I've literally, through cleaning, as you know, when I clean things or organise things, I reveal treasures. There are lots. The treasures were yielding themselves whilst I clean, so hang on a moment. And we're off. So, what happens when I do some organising? Well, I discover portions of my craft area that I kind of forgot about, even though I organise myself very, very well. I kind of generally always forget about some projects that are tidied away. Now, if you've watched my last video, Under the Stairs, where I was talking a lot about scrappies. Now, just to give you a hint, today's episode is Whip Central, because I have discovered whips everywhere, which is great, but you'll understand why I'm a little bit like everywhere, and why today's talk is going to be a lot about whips and scrappies and minis, because I'm using them everywhere at the moment, because I'm just packing the colour right into my life. Because let's face it, that's what it's there for, to bring some joy. So let's chat a moment about works in progress and what that means. Well, to me, everything else that's not finished literally is a work in progress. So today I thought I would show you a portion of my whips that is largely all about scrappies, because scrappies are the thing that I have oodles of, because I love minis and I cannot lie. They're everywhere in my house, everywhere. And this is what I do. I do minis all the time. So when I do minis, at the end of a mini ball, there's sometimes a little scrappy baby left over. Because each little mini gets wound from a 10 gram, a big skein of yarn, into a 10 gram mini. And at the end, sometimes it gets something a little bit like this, which I stash up all over the place because I know this is one of about 10. But I need it all, and I'll tell you why. Because I always know there comes to a point where I'm like, I need a quick, therapeutic, pick it up whenever I want, put it down whenever I fancy, kind of knit whip. And I have a few to show you because my fancy changes all the time. I have a lot. So I've got some knitted and some crochet, would you believe it? Crochet projects that are utilising some of my scrappies. Now, the one I want to show you first is because I'm going to show you the first one. The one I want to show you first is the crochet one, for no other reason other than it's the one that I'm currently obsessed with since yesterday, because if you check my grid, you'll see that I literally posted a small teeny triangle of squish, tiny. But this one I took with me when I ventured out in the car yesterday, and oh my gosh, even today I have just been crocheting on it. So this piece I'm making right here is utilizing scrappies, but I needed to have, do you know when you need to have something to frame it in? I don't know about you, but when I'm choosing colours for a project, it could go all out, like something like this behind me, like a scrappy tube, where I'm just using everything. Or it could be a curated kit, which is like a squish palette, and I'm like, oh, keep them together. Or There's other ways I look for influence in my colours because, you know, there's so many colours everywhere. You could be overwhelmed with choice. And if you've been here before, being overwhelmed with colour choices is something that I kind of find quite often, especially since there are so many colours for me to choose from. Now, how do I whittle it down? Well, the squish palette's the first port of call, but sometimes I need more, you know, more than 10 minis, because you want to have a scrappy explosion experience, but not be limited. So I've chosen to go down the path of sunsets with this piece, and I am just amazed at how quickly it's growing. Like, do you ever find that? Like, whenever I knit, this is, cup of tea. This is a knitted tube. See, I'm already getting carried away and showing the next one. Knitted tube, all out. I started this yesterday, knitted tube. I started this yesterday. So I'm generally always amazed at how quick crochet projects make themselves up, because they do gobble up yarn. So you need to have a lot of yarn on hand, which is why I keep all sizes of scrappies, all of them, because you never know when you need a right fit. It's a bit like building a dry stone wall, I guess. You need all different stones for all different reasons, for all different shapes and sizes, for the right space. So this is what I'm working on. And you may notice there's a new colour in there that you have not seen already on the shop or on Instagram if you're on there. This is a new colour that I'm getting a little bit carried away with. It's supposed to look a bit, feel a bit, look a bit, feel a bit like this. Oh, this is where my colours are coming from. So I'm just like, ooh, shocks of pink and ooh, shocks of orange. You know what I mean? So if you're out there crocheting with squish and you're like, what colours do I choose? Grab a picture and be like, ooh, crochet it out. Because this, once I've narrowed it down to a few colour choices, it makes it a little bit easier to kind of like plough on, because instead of having to grab any colour, which I love for a different reason, and I'll tell you in a second. Oh, hang on. I've got something to show you. This kind of has a different kind of flow to it, because even though you're choosing at random, you're discovering as you go, you can actually have like a theme. So if you're like, oh, pinks and blues would be another theme I do for this, like, so all the pinks, all of the blues, like all of them all together. That's a color palette in itself. So there you go. That's my crochet current whip. I have another crochet whip to show you, which I am going to be adding on to, because it is the tiniest crochet whip. This one, another great thing about crochet, and I did these with a 4mm hook. These are, crochet is fabulous because you can just make a unit and stop, one and done, one and done, one and done. You don't have to commit yourself doing it constantly. And the granny squares are perfect for that. Look at that. So this is like a big combination of all the different yarns I can just snaggle up for my bags and just stick them all together. And the idea with this is that I was going to make some more. And I like that whilst it's waiting, it still looks like something. And I keep getting tempted to turn it into something else, a bit like a cushion cover, but I know it needs to be more. Like, it definitely needs a third panel. And once I do the third panel, I'll be like, right, let's carry on going. So this is my other scrappy crochet whip. Oh, maybe we'll do crochet first, then knitting. No, let's not spoil it. Let's just do a knit one next. A knit one next. So the next knit on my needles is this everlasting scrappy tube, which is for wrist warmers and socks. So if you are a big fan of socks or wrist warmers, I am. Or if you're new to knitting here and you want to know what my go-to method is for knitting stuff for a first-time knitter, a beginner knitter, something that really just gets you carried away, gets me carried away. I get very carried away with tubes. This is a very simple pattern. It's free on the website. You can go and grab it. It's called the Travel Happy Wrist Warmer pattern. You just cast on here and then you carry on going. And I like this because, number one, it is so hard for me to get squishy samples knitted to show you of all the colours in the shop. This one isn't in the shop, but this is a new, oh, I love this. This is. That's it. That's it. So these colours, I'm just picking at random, but I do get tempted all the time to go from one colour blend to something else. And then I'm like, oh, that's a whole sock. But no, that's a whole sock. And then I'm like, oh, let's kick it up a gear and go some different colors. So I love the fact that with these type of knits, it's a true stash buster. Like you can just at random grab the smaller scraps. Like these are larger scraps. I'd probably use these for a cowl or a scarf. These are probably between, I'd say about 4 and 6 grams each. So you could get away with 2 and 3 grams on this absolutely perfectly. So this is a straight up tube. But if you feel a little bit braver, you can twist it up a little bit. Now, I love twists, I love spirals, and this sock pattern, my mum showed it to me. She made, if you've not heard, my mum is like what I hope to be knitting like in 20 years time. That's what I'm thinking. If I'm not knitting like my mum in 20 years time, I need to reassess my life goals, because she's just amazing. She started off saying to me, oh no, I can't make socks. It's too small. It's too fiddly. Like, I just won't do it. But my mum can actually make cable jumpers with her eyes closed, probably in the dark with the telly on. You know what I mean? She's like, that's the kind of knitter she is. So I was like, it's just a tiny jumper. Just think of it as a tiny jumper. And that was enough for her to go, boo! And by the time I saw her next time, she showed me this sock. Oh, I've got one over here. I've got loads of them, actually. I've got loads. She showed me this sock, and she was like, oh, what do you think of, oh, hang on. Where's the sock? Here you go. Oh, it's like pick and mix, straight off the wall. Dangers of living under the stairs with a squish. This sock, she said, oh, I made a sock. And I was like, my first response was this. I think you need to go back and check the pattern because you're missing something. She said, what am I missing? I said, you're missing a heel. She said, no. I know how much you hate knitting heels, and it's true. I just don't knit heels because I just find them that they're not the most fun, exciting part of my journey, which is fine. I can just not do them. But by that not doing them, I wasn't having any socks, and she was like, this doesn't need any heels. It's like, no, I don't believe you. That's just something has gone wrong in your pattern. She was like, no, try it on. Fit like a snug glove. Like, seriously, if you want to try this pattern, it is on the website, www.kateceline.co.uk, under the patterns bit. It's a free vintage spiral twist pattern. You can do it in wrist warmers, which is what I've done here. No, well, it could be either way because I'm undecided. I've used that pattern. I skip the cuff, go straight to the pattern, which is a blocks of 4 on, 4 off, and you get this beautiful spiral. And this one I had to put down for a little minute the other day because I felt like I was neglecting my other tube sock. This one, and it's not like, oh my gosh, look at that, neck and neck. Oh, this is impressive. I felt guilty for not knitting on this one because I was like, oh, I've shown lots of love here and not a lot of love here, but I do love this one. I'll show it some love. And look, they're almost at the same length. I'm impressed. Job achieved. So this is a spiral one, which I intend on cutting up into little slices. I'm making socks for everybody so you can wear down in the pop-up trailer that we've got down the bottom of the garden. I said that with a bit of an going up in my voice because I was kind of like, yeah, they are going to wear all the socks. I do need to make a lot. I do need to keep knitting. So this is a perfect knit. And also, you just don't have to stop. You just don't have to stop, which is kind of what the fun is about. You can stop whenever you fancy, which is like really at the end of at the end, when you've decided you've got no more yarn left. And then you can just stick this in your basket and be like, oh, how many pairs of socks do I need? Oh, perfect idea. Oh my gosh, why didn't I think of this myself? Perfect idea for gift knitting for Christmas because I never get round to it. I never get round to knitting anything for Christmas. But this would be ideal. Like maybe I could make the girls. No, that's just too late for the girls. I might make myself a little basket of socks. Oh my gosh, yes. Do you know you have to just make a treat for yourself? There you go. Perfect last minute gift knits if you need it. So that's tube number 1, 2, maybe number 3. And the other thing I am making, oh, there's toadstools everywhere, is this piece here. Oh, this is what I discovered whilst I was organising everything. And when I say organising, what I really mean is I totally changed around the living room, moved all the furniture around and the sofa, and then I went into the squish room, which, if you don't know what the squish room is, it's the room with all of the squish that I ship out. It's like all of the squish, which is like a place I like to go and sit on the floor, I like to look at the shelves, but I was like, I need more space. And sometimes when I start clearing the house and moving furniture, it's like a bug. and then I see another room through the door of another room that I've just sorted out, and I'm like, ooh, could that do with a different kind of room? And of course it can, and every time it yields treasures. So this is what I found when I organized my space next to my office, which is just a desk full of all my favorite stuff. Oh, don't let me forget to tell you about my favorite stuff that I found riverlarking yesterday. Oh my gosh. Because my desk spaces and my spaces that I keep all of my squish is slightly getting taken over by the oddities and random things I'm collecting from field walking and river walking. So these were tucked away in a bag, and this is a giant tube, which is going to make the snuggliest scarf. Like, it's got such a lovely squish to it. And again, I've used a 4mm crochet hook to make sure it's got that. Now, I like it having a little bit of like air between it, you know what I mean? So it's got a lovely drape. So this is one that now is going back into my squish-orama basket, because crikey, there are so many minis in there. It is, I've got to like portion them off. I should portion them all off. That's a job to do next. So crochet. I'll put on my blog all of these things so that you might find yourself a scrappy tube or two that you might fancy doing too. So that's the crochet one in the tube. And that's just going to go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, which gives me lots of different ways of showing you different squish. Because look, it does look different when you crochet and knit it. And also, you find out what they need to be used for. And I find that a lot with yarn. I don't know. Maybe you do too. I find that yarn's got a bit of a personality, and it kind of likes being treated a certain way, and sometimes it doesn't like being put next to neighbours, and sometimes it's like, ooh, I'd like to live on the same street as that colour. So when I use them in different formats, I kind of like learn things about them and their personalities. Like, I never thought that those right there, I wouldn't have done those together. But I think they are just like a match made in colour heaven. Look at that. And then the green. See, I wouldn't have done the green next to this. And I'm just like, even just that. So I find these are great swatch projects if you're thinking of a larger piece, like a jumper or things like that, because you can totally make a jumper or a cardigan from a tube. I was going to say a square, but it looks like a square, flat. It's a tube. And, oh, if you're interested in that, there's loads of videos on Instagram that show you how to do it, which is really quite fun, because it was like a week-long project and it was brilliant. Like, loads of you made jumpers. So I'm going to start a nice lofty one for myself, because I'd like a little bit more of an off-the-shoulder slouchy jumper. So yeah, that's gonna be my next scrappy project, because that really does eat up the yarn, especially when you've just got loads of bits left over. So are there more tubes? Of course there's more tubes. One last one. Oh yeah, just one last one. One last tube to show you today. This one is a scrappy tube that is going to be an inside-out cowl. The patterns on the website. These are all free patterns, because you need... I consider myself kind of a beginner knitter, maybe a little bit more than a beginner, self-taught in all ways. And sometimes when you start knitting, you're not really sure if you can do anything that's really exciting. You totally can. And just use colour. Make a tube really exciting. This is an inside-out cowl that would eventually be folded through like this, and then seamed at the bottom. Boom. And then that way you can coordinate it with your clothes, which means you've got the opportunity to do something on the inside, something on the outside. Oh, and if you like the inside out cowl idea, this one right here is a spotty one. Oh, free pattern on the website. This is just, I've had so much fun with this pattern. I've made bags out of it. I've changed the different color directions. You could do different shades on the inside. You could do a different outfit combination. So that's what this is going to be. So I like to see, this is almost like me road testing all my colorways, because I just kind of want to get to know them better. And knitting and crocheting them up in all different formats is like a kind of a great way of doing it. And it offers me a bit of a brain reprieve from bigger projects. Like, I've been doing a lot of catelets. Like, there are a lot of catelets, and a lot of blankets, which is why I decided to go for a triangle here rather than a square, because it's tempting with a square. Once you start, you just can't stop, and you can't, it's going to be a blanket, and I don't, at the moment, I want to wear it. I kind of want to wear all my makes. I'm at the point where I want to be able to wear it all the time. Otherwise, it's just not as exciting. So I am whipped away with stuff I found in my stash cupboard, in my boxes, in my shelves. Oh my gosh, the squish room had such a reorganization. It was marvelous. I've just created so much more space. Don't you love doing that? And also, if you're finding that your face doesn't work out, well, that's a statement for the day. If working out your space isn't working out for the things you needed to do, try rearranging it. Always works for me, and you're guaranteed to find things that you thought you lost. And talking about things, oh, that was a nice little, that you thought you lost. I have been indulging in other things other than knitting, because if you're new here, I am very passionate about yarn and colour, but I'm also very passionate about getting outside, finding out about history. I could spend hours walking the field, metal detecting, which is a whole heap of fun. But because it is so hot, it is unbearably hot here in the UK. As I realise I'm wearing a part of a scarf, it is warm. It's the wrong weather for metal detecting for a couple of reasons. So if you're wondering why, it's too dry, which means you can't dig, and I'm so small and so light. Like, it's just quite funny trying to imagine me trying to dig the ground generally. But when it's really hard, it's trying to, like watching a child jumping around on a pogo stick hoping to dig somewhere. It's kind of not working, and yeah, it doesn't yield any results. It's kind of frustrating. So I'm waiting for the rain to fall, which still hasn't fallen, even though we were supposed to have thunderstorms. So until the days have arrived when it's cooler and I don't get heat stroke when I'm out metal detecting, which I almost got last time, which is just quite amusing. Tales of metal detecting: don't go out when it's just blisteringly hot with denim dungarees and walking boots. Don't do it. But I have found other things to get excited about. Obviously, I've got paintings I get lost in, but reading books about the types of things I enjoy is just like, oh, it's another way of escaping. These two books, I'll put them in my blog so you can see which ones they are. These two books, this one I've already finished, Rag and Bone and Mudlarking, and the reason that I've finished this one is because they're just so exciting. Like, if you want to wonder what it's like to discover stuff, or if you're thinking about metal detecting or walking on the rivers and thinking that you can find treasures, you can. Like, treasures are what you make of them. These two books are an amazing insight as to what it's like to get caught up. Getting caught up, you know? I've yet to finish this. I'm trying not to read it all at once. I tried not to read this all at once, but I just couldn't help it. I just sat down and devoured the whole thing. But it takes you on like a discovery of your past and the past around here, which helps me like understand a lot more about the things I might find in the ground. And talking about finding, where is it? I went river larking yesterday at my parents'. Oh, what a joy. I knew my parents' place. Well, actually, there's a little river running around the house, which I used to go in all the time as a child, but I never really looked for stuff I didn't even know to look for. So I used to just catch fish, which was a lot of fun. But now that I know that there's things to be found wherever people live, I went back down there to have a walk yesterday. And after a false discovery of a clay pipe, I found a real clay pipe stem. Now you're like, what, Kate, what? And I'm like, I know. But this is like I've got bucket list finds for metal detecting, but for like walking a river or a beach, like a clay pipe stem, I don't even care that it doesn't have a bowl on it. A clay pipe stem. I was just like, oh my gosh. And all I could see was this much. So if you enjoy discovering things, imagine my delight when I was like, oh my gosh, it's part of a stem. So this is amazing because this has come from my childhood home where there used to be an old pub a long time ago. And just imagine somebody taking a respite over the river where their mules or their carts was parked up, having a puff on their clay pipe before chucking it over in the river. And jewelry is such a weird and odd thing to find in a river, but just gleaming from the bank, like just looking at it, the sun shone off it. I saw this and I pulled it out and it turned out to be a mother of pearl cufflink. I was like, oh my gosh, which is so personal. So even though I'm knitting lighter things because the weather is so warm, I'm discovering new things that are stuff I am going to do a lot more of. And it teaches you to look really closely at stuff that you just generally would glance around at. So bucket list find, clay pipe, stem, and a cufflink. Like, the stories these pieces could tell. So those are the things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, because I haven't been metal detecting. And these 2 books are my best reads so far. So I am just embracing the sunshine. Like, at the moment, you may not be able to hear it, but in the background, I've got shrieking, giggling girls who are outside in a pool with John cooling off in the sunshine, eating ice lollies. I am definitely going to have an ice lolly and put my feet in the pool before I carry on squishing, because it's so hot squishing. Squishing yarn is it's a hot job, but not that kind of hot job, but just like a hot job where you need to stand outside and cool off in the sunshine, or dry yourself off, more like. So yes, so that's my squishy update. Can you believe it? Like, obviously, I needed more than 10 minutes to tell you all about my whips, but just, I hope I've inspired you to go and search for your stashes, gather your squish together. All these patterns, well, these ones are not on the website, but the I was looking for the triangle crochet scarf. This isn't on the website because this is so simple. Like, it's like a crocheter's basic triangle. Go and grab a basic triangle, go out. It's great. And these ones are on the website, the tubes, free patterns. Go and download them and have a lot of fun. And hopefully I will see you under the stairs soon for some more squishy updates and news. And also, talking about the squishy update news, if you want to find out more about these colours, because there are a few that will be arriving in the shop soon, or you want to know some of the secret stuff that's going on, because Squishmail is the only place I know you're guaranteed to hear from me, because social media is, we're all on everything, but that's the place I like to pop in and be like, yoo-hoo, hiya Squisher. So if you'd like a hiya Squisher mail off me, pop over to the website, which is www.katesleen.co.uk, and sign up, and I shall see you soon. And until then, Squishers, craft on. And if it's not going to work for you today, don't worry. Just keep thinking about it, because stuff grows fast. Once you start, you won't stop. And look, if it's not today, it'll wait for tomorrow. And that's all I can say, because sometimes it doesn't work for me today. I'm just not crafting anything. But tomorrow, I'm going to be like crocheting like crazy. So until then, I shall see you soon. Bye, Squishers!